Heading into the season, I do think this is going to be the biggest and best college football season that we've had because I think the talent is better than it's ever been. I think the sport is better than it's ever been. I think the exposure and the media rights with where the games are and when they're being watched is bigger and better than ever. I'm just really excited for the actual football to start, Herbie. For you, how do you feel about AP Top 25 poll? How do you feel about where we sit just 8 days away from Baton Rouge being a part of our lives and kicking off this real thing as we go forward to the national championship?
Man, I can't wait. I mean, you showing those FCS games. We got games this weekend, and then obviously it's go time. On Monday, we do our first college game day call to get ready for our first college game day down at Death Valley with Clemson and LSU. Finally, all the talk is subsided. One thing I've learned with these off seasons and all of these different stories that always come out, and I'm like you, is it going to hurt the game? And then you go out there, and it's still Death Valley. It's still a night game. It's still packed. There's still a student section. The marching bands come out. The teams run out. And it's like everybody forgets about all of it. And you just embrace the passion and the pageantry and the traditions of college football. So I don't think this year will be any different. In fact, I think it could be better. There's more big names and quarterbacks, more big names at every position. They're coming back this year than I can remember in a long, long time. And the cool thing is about this NIL and the portal is everybody's in the mix. I mean, you're showing right there a bunch of teams. So what is that, 15, 16 teams that have a shot to make a run? You know, whether you're going through the SEC, going through the Big 10, the Big 12, ACC, the group of six, whoever it is, everyone feels like they can throw their hat in the ring. And 5 years ago and any time before that, if people were asking us and putting odds up, it would have been Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson, and everybody else. And now we've got everybody thinking that they've got a shot. And I think that's one of the cool things that we've gotten out of this. Instead of Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia stacking all these 5 stars, those guys are other places now. I mean, that's why we saw Indiana make a run. That's why we've seen Texas Tech, Vanderbilt, all these teams. I think it's given them life. We've seen a lot of big-time hires within these power conferences. And I think it creates a lot of anticipation and excitement for the masses, as opposed to just, 4 or 5 or 6 teams that think they always got a shot to win it all.
Yeah, I think the talent dispersion. Is that the word?
That works.
Whoa, whoa, Morgantown. Whoa.
Brother, yeah. Thank you. Plum High School as well. So the talent dispersion, I believe, because all you need is 1 or 2 NIL people, you get a really good player. Like, you can get a really good player to a couple different positions, and you can field a team that might be able to steal some big wins down the road. And then, obviously, you do still have the heavyweights who have all the cash, and we know they're going to be in it. The second best odds there, after the top 2 are tied, Texas Longhorns. Now, it's been interesting to kind of learn about them. Ty has a question about Texas and what's going on in Austin, where college game day is week 2 when Ohio State comes to town.
Yeah, Herbie, last time we had you on, I think we talked about how, people were kind of crapping on Arch early on, but that, you liked them. They're still a very trendy pick to win it all. And then I think it was last week, a junior linebacker gets dismissed from the team, and then a freshman player's dad takes to X and basically says, like, hey, this is bullshit. This is all politics. I'm going to expose everything that's going on there. And then we see the issue. Again, it's hearsay. It's just clips on Twitter. But we see Arch and the offense are struggling. Like, how much cause of concern do you think there is for Texas right now with the expectations being so high, and considering that, like, they need to be good right out of the gates because they have Ohio State coming in so soon?
Well, Ty, I think that until they prove that they can handle dealing with that big bullseye, it's fair to see and question that until they go out there and play these games. I think the player getting kicked off, I haven't talked to Sark yet. We will when we get ready for that Ohio State game. The player getting kicked off, a parent, I think those are potential distractions on the outside for the fans and for the media, but I think internally, I'm sure it's just business as usual. I don't know how much stock to put in whatever, hook'em.com or whatever is saying about, the offense isn't looking good. I got a lot of confidence in Sark. I got a lot of confidence in what this offense can do. I think Arch, Ty, we talked about this. I think what he went through last year with the almost unrealistic expectations and living through it, not just going through it and just not having a great year. Those last 8 or 9 games, he played really good football. So I think dealing with all that, I think allows him to come in and now has experience of dealing with that kind of pressure. So I'm not picking him to win it all. I can't wait to hear what you guys have. I've got Notre Dame playing Indiana in the national championship. How crazy would that be in your state if that happens? I got Notre Dame winning it all over Indiana in a national championship. I got Ohio State and Georgia both getting into the playoff, but in the Final Four. But I got Notre Dame and Indiana advancing. Have you guys put your 12-team bracket, or are you going to put one out before we get going?
Nope, we're not doing that. But you and Reese both have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish winning the national championship. That's now obviously they're tied for the best odds in the country. Carr comes back.
They got 3 games. They got 3 games, and they don't have a conference championship game. I mean, they're going to walk at least into the playoff, and that guy right there is going to win the Heisman Trophy. So I'm all in on Notre Dame this year. I think this is the year that they've recruited well. They've got some experience at receiver. There's Leonard Moore. I mean, this is a very talented team, and I think they got a bit of a chip on their shoulder from what happened to them a year ago. So I think it's a real deal. But like you look at that schedule, I can't really see it from here, but I think it's Miami, SMU. Who else we got? Miami,
BYU.
At BYU.
Yeah, BYU's a big one.
At North Carolina.
And Navy's a little bit of a tricky game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how about Rice? You don't know what Rice is going to pull out there. You know, that's a whole nother one, let alone Syracuse at the end there. Fran's doing his thing still up there. They're going to be pumping out TV people until they go out of business. But, yeah, we understand what you're saying about the schedule merchants. I think that's always about Notre Dame's story, especially with how last year started at the beginning versus how they ended. That's the benefit of being an independent, but also I assume it's not easy for people to want to schedule Notre Dame right now either, with all the NIL backing and everything they kind of have happening up there. Freeman's got them buzzing. You talk about easy schedule there. Let's head up to the Big Ten, shall we? AJ has a team he'd like to ask about that nobody's really talking about.
Yeah, Kirk, I think Penn State's kind of flying under the radar right now. They bring in Matt Campbell as the new head coach, and people say they have a very favorable schedule for them. I guess, what are your expectations for this Penn State team, and what is kind of the ceiling for these guys?
I think they go 10-2. You know, I think they're a playoff team. I think that the schedule favors them. They don't play Ohio State, Indiana, or Oregon.
Crazy.
How does that happen?
Through that.
Just luck.
What's that?
It's just lucky, right? It's got lucky that this year they don't?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how about that for timing for Matt Campbell?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple games there that, are on the road that are going to be tough for them. But I could see this team getting to 10 wins. And if they do, I think they get over the hump and into the playoffs. So I think I've told you guys how I feel about Matt Campbell. I don't know if Penn State could have handpicked a better fit for their culture and what they're about, their history and tradition, and what they want to get back to. I thought James Franklin did a good job, but obviously those games against Ohio State and Michigan, they just couldn't quite get there, even though just a couple years ago they were in the semifinals. But their fan base, I think, eventually turned, and it was time for a change. And James Franklin's going to do great things. I'd like to think at Virginia Tech, get the Hokie Nation back. And I think Matt Campbell's going to do outstanding. It's kind of like what Indiana did. Brought a lot of guys over from Ames, so they know the culture. They know kind of what the expectations are. They can do a really good job of teaching some experience that's coming back, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But I think Penn State, I think the Big Ten, once again this year is really, really deep. Not just Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana, but you go through the entire Big Ten. SC, I think, is coming. I think Lincoln Riley has got a quarterback. They got better skill, even though they lose some receivers to the NFL. I still think they got some great skill. They've recruited well. Michigan's kind of a wild card with Bryce Underwood. Don't really know with Kyle Whittingham what to expect. They could be a 10-win team. They could be a 7 or 8-win team. It just depends really on Bryce and how he kind of adjusts to this new scheme, and how they're going to be able to take advantage of not just his arm, but his legs, because that's really who Utah has been when they really were humming. They had a quarterback who's more of a dual threat guy. So are they going to turn him loose? But look at this: Penn State, Washington, Iowa. I think Iowa's another 8-9-win team.
Oh.
Wisconsin and Nebraska should be better. Illinois. I mean, look at the depth of that conference. It's scary.
It certainly is, and Nick Saban is kind of acknowledging it. He's starting to kind of acknowledge he's being forced to. The entire South is kind of being forced to acknowledge it. Now,
I think it's just factual. It's just real. You just go by what's happening, and The Big Ten.
Yeah,
And then
but you guys on SEC ESPN, you mostly, Kirk Herbstreit mostly, Kirk Herbstreit ESPN, I think is what they're actually calling you. It is, I think it is interesting though, because for a very, very long time, you just rattled through the names of the four that it was. It was like Ohio State represented the North, and then you had the Big
Alabama,
Three,
Georgia,
South.
Clemson. Yeah.
Yeah, whoever it was. There's a rotating extra one normally, but it was like Saban's going to be there, Georgia's going to be there, that boy's going to be there. Now, they all come from the same coaching tree, obviously, but they're all going to be there. Now it's like it does feel like all the Big Ten teams could potentially be there, and I think that's good for the sport, but we're talking about the dispersion of talent. The SEC needs one bad, I think. That's why Sankey coming out and kind of getting into it with Lane, because he would love to see LSU win the national championship. I think the SEC would like to see that. So Sankey coming out and being like, we're going to do it the right way, though. I like that out of Greg Sankey. Who knows what the power he is. But with the South as a whole, Tone has the last question about college ball for you.
Yeah, I do, Kirk. It feels like everyone believes in Georgia and Texas and the SEC. And then I have like a group of six teams where they all have questions, but three of them are probably going to make the playoff. 2 to 3 of them are going to make the playoff in A&M, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, LSU, Bama, and Tennessee. Those last two starting 5-star freshmen. Out of that group, outside of Georgia and Texas, who do you like the most to potentially make the playoff of those teams that have question marks at this point?
If Oklahoma can go to Ann Arbor in week 2 and win that game, I like the Sooners to be a team with Mateer and the defense that Venables always has. But can they win that game on the road early? And then Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss and A&M. I like Chambliss and I like Marcel Reed. I think both of those teams have a legitimate shot. I think the only time people talk about Ole Miss on a national level is when they talk about Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. It's like, let's just move past that. Let's look at them and their roster and who they have. Now, Charlie Weiss Jr., when they were rolling last year with Chambliss, he had a lot to do with when Lane left that offense in the playoff. They were lethal. Now he's in Baton Rouge. So how are they going to do offensively? We know what kind of player Chambliss is, and we know what kind of players they have around that position, led by Lacey, the running back. But how are they going to do it when it comes to that offense and the play calling? That is such a up-tempo offense, and it takes the right kind of guy to be able to pull the trigger to really do it justice. And so we'll have to wait and see. Let's watch them play a few games, but I think we all love Chambliss. I think this kid could be, again, a guy that gets to New York City at the end of the year. If any indication at all of what he did in the postseason last year, aren't all of us kind of like, man, I want to see this guy play again. I cannot wait. I was happy to see that he got that extra year, and now we can't wait to see if these guys can get off to a fast start.
Oh, you like that he got the injunction there? Because Governor Jeff Landry said, kind of fascinating. We like this, but we don't like that. Okay, we kind of pick.
Well, he didn't put on an NFL uniform, Gov.
Well, you hate to play, you hate the game. We got Tiger coming for week 1. We got Browns, playing this too. So I think the fact that the governor, Jeff Landry, is behind it down there as well, we know that this is going to be a tough fight for Sankey and whoever is trying to get in there. Because if this man wants a Tiger on the field, guess what? A Tiger getting on field. Even if we need a fake Tiger to kind of distract people that think that's going to be the Tiger, stop that Tiger from getting to the stadium. Definitely, yeah. We'll send in a fake Tiger for them to rally and protest against, and then we'll slip, boom, Tiger in the back door, and then all of a sudden we got Big Roar on the sideline. Which I think is a huge part of the family experience. You go down there, you see Big Mike Roar. That's a part of the game. So I think if Governor Jeff Landry and Lane Kiffin are on the same side, I don't think this shit's going to go easy. I don't think this is going to be an easy fight for anybody. But to follow up to your point, everybody was excited that Trinidad got another year, I think. Like, everybody. Like, we were excited for him. We were pumped for him. Like, Ole Miss, obviously, super pumped. And then now it's like, well, that injunction's okay? He could play 6 years? Oh, what about the guy who's playing 9 years at UNLV leading the dance? Those guys are okay, but yeah, we get it. This guy, he played a preseason game for Cleveland Browns. Okay, all right, we got it. It's going to be loud. I don't love it, but back to your Trinidad point, I thought he was the best quarterback in the league, in the entire country last year when we watched him live. Granted, Fernando definitely better than him. But you understand what I'm saying here. I thought Trinidad, like this year, could be the best quarterback,
Oh,
maybe
look
the
at
best
him
player
go,
in
man.
all of
Oh.
college football. He's unbelievable, man.
God,
He
I
can
love
win
that
games
kid.
by himself. If that week 3 game down in Oxford is a Trinidad Chambliss showcase, which it certainly could be, I'd love to see the Ole Miss folks back in the national contention and conversation. But until then, it's all going to rally around the Big Ten. Okay, let's pivot to the NFL.
Dude, how do you go to
Congrats,
Ferris State? How do you go to Ferris State and then become that guy? Nothing
Incarnate
against Ferris
Word.
State. Nothing against Ferris State.
That's a good program now.
Great program.
I know it is. I know it is.
Incarnate Word had Cam Ward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah, like it's very interesting the paths that end up happening
It
for
is.
some of these guys that make it.
Yeah.
And I think those paths are what like Les Snead's looking for. He said, I want to see a guy who goes and transfers up, has been through a story. It's like almost a part of the like the development of this entire thing. But a lot of good players have been able to utilize that. I don't know if you go to the NFL and you get to do it, but there's been something happened in Texas, I guess today. A Texas judge just ruled on something.
Another judge. All right. What do we got here? What's this judge got for us?
A G League player did something, and then the Texas judge added something, and it basically said, Greg Sankey's going to have to go ahead and figure out legally how he can tell us what we can't do. So that's pretty much what's being said. So once again, it's getting louder and louder and louder and louder. Once the games kick off, hopefully all this will stop.